Hey, hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm holding a puppy dog right now because
Oh,
she decided right as we were coming on the air that she absolutely, without question, needed to be held. So,
ah, well, that's the way that works. It is the way that works. Well, it's hot here. I hope you guys are somewhere sipping Mai Tais and, by the water somewhere with a nice breeze because uh, it's normally a little bit cooler here than it is in Nashville. I'm not so sure that that holds true today. It's a little warm.
whew, yeah, it's been brutal. I heard something like a third of the country, over 100 million people, are in
Yeah.
some sort of heat advisory or heat caution warning, whatever.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And my dad's in Fort Worth, Texas, and I got a really good buddy in Houston, and man, they're like on their 10th day or something of triple digits. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hot down there. Anyway, well, we won't talk about the heat. I'll just enjoy my air conditioning and my iced tea. Thank you, Terry, for giving us a thumbs up. We're gonna get started here. This is one of my most fun things that I look forward to every single month now is the Q&A with Carter and I. We really enjoy this, so we're gonna start with some of the questions that we've gotten, and of course, if you guys have questions, please make sure you put that in the comments, and we will answer those as well. So this is a personal promotional question, but I did get this from somebody. Are you guys doing photography and video? The answer to that question is yes. We are now doing photography and video. This year, we're just doing it for clients only, but we're going to probably open it up really to the chimney industry next year, and then who knows from there? We may take over the world. I don't know. We'll
It's
see.
kind of like we're getting back to our roots there. I mean, I
I
don't know if
know.
many people know this, but you have a pretty extensive background in film and video.
I
Um,
do.
I've got a background in video and audio post production, and so I mean, this is like the world that we kind of come from, but never really focused on it as part of our marketing because marketing and creative services oftentimes, the digital marketing world is more about um, some of the more concrete things online, and content is a whole different animal in terms. I mean, it has to be there. You've got to have good content for digital marketing. I'm talking about from like a marketing company operations standpoint. It's a
Yeah.
whole different animal.
Yeah.
And you've got to have different kinds of creative people to run those crews, the on location, and managing that, and creating that content is a whole different workflow and a whole different operational piece of the puzzle. So I'm really excited that we're offering it and figuring out how to make that a standard part of our services.
So let's talk about that a minute because that's one of the questions that I got along with this is, are you guys really pros at this? So let me just tell you, I'm gonna back up in another life. So I feel like in another life, um, I worked for a company called South Coast Video and Film in Houston, Texas. I actually owned a graphics and animation company that we were inside of this other company. So because I was there, I ended up doing a ton of different things for video shoots. So I've run teleprompter and lights and audio and gaffed and did all kinds of stuff in the time we were there. Um, and actually sold my part of the business to move to Nashville. And when I got here, I freelanced in the video community for 5 years. So before I landed a permanent job. So
You worked on some big productions too,
yeah,
like national
yeah,
traveling productions.
yeah. I worked on some big traveling shows and traveled the United States, and we did music, mainly music related, and I did a lot of stuff actually transcribing music for shoots for directors that couldn't, I mean, they couldn't read music, and so I had to do I just had to do cues, the production cues and director cues. So, yeah, I've done a lot of that. I've run camera, I've run audio, all the stuff. But what I'm really good at is managing. So that's kind of what I do. And then I want you to talk a little bit about your post production work because you've won awards.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit over the years, just in visual animation projects and things. I've worked for World Bank. I've worked for a number of organizations that hired me to create. In marketing, we would call them an explainer video. But these were a little bit longer format. But they really worked to talk about some of the challenges internationally with water supply, water security, and things like that. So I produced a series of 3 videos that were nominated for an award at the International Green Screen Film Festival, and enjoyed a lot of that work. But it's very intense, and it was the kind of work that I think part of the reason that we've never offered it to our clients is because both of us come from a background in it, and we know what it takes to do it at a really high level. And we've always been very content to farm it out to people that wanted to run a film and video company, and that wasn't our vision. But the more that technology has evolved, the better equipment that has gotten in terms of being able to pack what you need to do a good quality video shoot and take it with you on the road. I mean, it's just gotten to where it's more possible now than it's ever been. You don't have to travel with a crew of 5 people and
Right.
2 U-Haul trucks full of gear in order to get a really good quality product. So we're back in the game.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. And then I want to shout out Jonathan Sanders, who is part of our team here.
Yeah.
He has been working diligently behind the scenes. He's been wanting to do this probably 5 years. And I said, dude, I'm not going to take you out until you learn how to do it. You got to learn your equipment. You got to do this. You got to do that. We got to put drones up. So you got to become an FAA pilot. I don't have time to do that. Nor do I think I have the dexterity to do that because I'm not a gamer. So we went through that. So he has worked diligently over the last 4 or 5 years to really, really hone his craft. And he's doing really, really well with everything that he's done. So I want to give him some props here too, because he deserves them.
Absolutely.
And then when it comes to photography, I know everybody says we don't need, professional photographer. We don't need this. We don't need that. But when you have a professional photographer that actually understands what you need to do social media, the different TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and the differences and how you need it and what you need and what you can use and what you don't use. At the same time, also knows how to gather a team and make great team pictures, and then individual shots, can do all the cleanup after the fact. You get a really good photographer out there, all of a sudden you see the difference between your iPhone and a really, really good photographer. So, I don't want to go pretend that I'm one. I want to do a really good job. And also, we don't just do it, willy nilly. We make sure that we have time to edit and deliver the videos too. So, and that's what they're all working on that right now. I talked to the photographer and Jonathan yesterday, and they are diligently working on delivery. So, if anybody asks or whatever, I just want to make sure that, just that that we do this. You've got to get it scheduled on the books. I'm pretty much booked up this year, so we're now going to be scheduling into next year, and clients first, but non-clients after that. So, and I'm going to put up a little bit. All the companies you guys have done videos and photography with so far are highly pleased with your results. So I think that's Jerry Eisenhower, because he said last week that it's not recognizing him. So if that's not Jerry, I'm sorry, whoever you are. Hope that didn't insult you. If it is Jerry, hey, thanks for being here, buddy. Appreciate it. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that because there's been some confusion whether we're really doing that or not. So I wanted to clear that up. So here's our next question. You ready for this? Does local search mean SEO? Okay. All right. So local search is really about Google Maps and what's called the Google Business Profile. Search engine optimization is about organic. So, do you need to optimize your local search? Yes, you do. But it is actually different than traditional search engine optimization. Hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense, Carter?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it does to me for sure. Um, it's like part of, but not completely.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's part of it's part of SEO, but it's not the only thing SEO is about.
Well, and there are a lot of businesses that don't even have a website that will just use the map and just optimize your map listing or your Google Business Profile listing. So most companies like ours, when we take a client as a full service client, we actually do both. And so a lot of times people confuse that they're the same thing, but you optimize them totally differently. And what you do with each one of them is different. The local search really is about what's on that Google Business Profile, where search engine optimization is really about
What's on
what's
your
on
website?
your website as well as how people search. So there's a lot more keyword things that happen on the SEO side as opposed to the local side.
So the only reason I say that it's part of SEO is not because it's similar in terms of its work, the work that has to be done in order to optimize, only because it's the local search that we're really talking about is being present on the Google search engine, and for that reason it is optimizing for search SEO.
Correct.
Yeah.
The biggest difference is traditional SEO is keyword driven, where local search, while there is some things with keyword, it really is location driven.
Yeah.
So it's more based on where you're located in relation to where the business is located that you're looking to do. So if I'm located right in the middle of Nashville and I search for a chimney sweep, what may come up is just the closest location to downtown Nashville. But if I'm in, where I live in Cottontown, that may not even show up here, even though it's well optimized online. But if I go in and type a different term, I could get it to show up here because the term I'm searching for Google may see that business down in Nashville actually meets that term better. So that's kind of the difference. And hopefully, without getting too technical, to simplify it as much as possible so that you kind of understand the differences of that. But both of them do have to be optimized. In that, they are related in that way. They have to be optimized. So hopefully that makes some sense. So the next question, I'll let you take this one, Carter. What exactly is a landing page?
Yeah, we talk about landing pages a lot. um, the best way to think about a landing page is a page that has been set up specifically for people who are coming from somewhere else to your website, and you want that page to be designed like a welcome committee for their arrival. Okay, so that landing page is going to have specific information about whatever it was that you were talking about somewhere else. That could be a Google ad, that could be somebody else's website where they've given you the ability to make a special offer and link to that offer so that people who land on that page know exactly what it is that you're offering. And you know one of the biggest challenges with conducting good Google ad management is a lot of times people waste money because they create an ad and then send it to the homepage or send it to some other page on their website, but it doesn't feel connected at all to what people read in the ad, and they don't know what it is they should be looking for. They thought they were going to get one bit of information when they clicked on that ad, but now they're on a page that has a whole bunch of other stuff and they're not even sure if they're in the right place. And that creates bounces, that creates people who are not engaged with your content, who don't understand what the call to action is, who are just trying to solve a problem, and you're throwing roadblocks in their way. A landing page gets rid of the roadblocks. A landing page is the most direct path from promising somebody that if they click this link somewhere else online and go to a page to learn more about something, that when they get there, that's exactly what they're going to get. That's the easiest way to explain it that I know of.
Yeah, and I want to take a minute and thank Chuck Roydhouse and Renee also for giving us a like. I love it when I don't have to say anything and you guys just go in there and like us. It makes us feel so loved. I just want y'all to know that. The only thing that I would add to that on the landing page is there's something called quality score, especially in Google Ads. It's also in Bing Ads and some other places as well. But where most people know about it is in Google Ads. So your quality score, if you're sending ads to a homepage, we'll just talk about that because the homepage may talk about, 5 different services, and you're sending that ad there for a specific service. And so when the person gets there, not only are they confused, but Google sees all the bounces, sees the people coming off, sees them not staying and reading through the content. And so what that does is that actually affects the quality score. Well, a lot of people go, well, I don't really care if they do it. It's just a bounce. Well, not really, because it affects the money that you're spending. Because if your quality score goes low, you're actually spending more money to be up on those ads higher in the page. So that's another thing about landing pages and why they're really important to use. And I would say you want to visually really show people, and you also want to not give them the opportunity to wander off that landing page. It's very specific to what you want them to do and the action that you want to take. So it's got very specific calls to actions on there, and it's a really, like Carter said, the most direct way to get from point A to B for a customer that's looking for that particular service.
Another way to think about it is like a cattle chute, right? We want that cow to go into a specific place, and we don't want that cow to have other options to get out of going into that specific place. So we funnel them through a cattle chute in order to get them there. A landing page is like a funnel or a cattle chute. It's a way of taking a customer directly to the point B that you've designed for them to take the action that you want them to take after arriving on that page.
And I have to say, Carter, now when I talk about a landing page, I'm gonna remember the cattle chute. That's the first time, and that's really good.
Yeah, I figured you'd like that one for sure.
I like that one. I'm just sorry I didn't come up with that one. So is there a way to call a customer back that you miss on the phone before they go to the next business? And this is really talking about when the phones get busy and you can't answer every time. So Carter, take that one too, man.
Yeah, I'll take it too. So with Customer Engine, our newest software, we're doing that. We have the ability through Customer Engine, if you connect your primary phone number online to Customer Engine, then when the phone rings, if that phone call is not answered because people in the office are busy or on other calls or whatever, and it goes to voicemail, we immediately look to see, is this number a text number? If it is, if it's textable, if it's a cell phone, then we immediately can text that customer and say, hi, this is XYZ service company. I saw that we missed your phone call. How can we help you? Right? And it happens almost immediately. So what this does is it interrupts the customer's process of going down the list and looking for the next available company to call to solve their problem. Now they're engaged in a conversation, albeit on text instead of on the phone, but that slows it down just enough to where hopefully someone can get off the phone, communicate with that customer via text, convert it into a phone call, get the appointment scheduled, and rescue that appointment or that customer from going somewhere else. And it's brilliant. It works incredibly well. It can rescue, especially during the busy season when the phones are ringing off the hook. This can be a great way of making sure that you're not losing business that you need.
Awesome. Next one. I heard Google doesn't care about bad reviews. Is that right? Well, okay. I think this came about. If y'all remember, a lot of you guys were here last week when we talked about taking bad reviews and turning them around a little bit. We talked about the restaurants that were getting the negative reviews. I think this question actually came about because of that. So it's not that Google doesn't care about bad reviews. Well, Google doesn't care if you get bad reviews. If you get bad reviews and they're legitimately bad reviews, which nobody thinks we ever get legitimate bad reviews, but if they are legitimate bad reviews, Google basically says you have to live with them. At the same time, what they're finding is when people review and hold you hostage or it's blackmail, that's just not a bad review. That's bad acting online. So Google is actively going after that from what they've said. Right now, today, I can't tell you of anybody that I've read about that Google has actually caught and done something with, or, I don't know if they're just getting rid of them. I don't know if they're trying to find them and prosecute them. I don't know what the extent is, but I do know if it's a blackmail situation, that Google does want to be notified, and they are realizing it, and it's apparent that that's going on, and they are supposedly on it trying to figure that out. So hopefully, that will just be one of those things. What is an LSA? So that is a local service ad. So here's the good news about local service ads. If you're able to get them, they're great. They're the 3 ads that come at the very top of the page in Google. There's some things you have to do to be able to get them. You literally have to apply and go through an application process with Google to get an LSA. Here's the bad news. They are not open to every industry. And right now, chimney services is not something they're open to. I look at this probably 2 or 3 times a month, just waiting for them to open for chimney services. And once they do, then I will recommend everybody that is a client of ours to get on them. I think they're great. There's a Google guarantee part of it, but at the same time, your entire staff has to pass a background check. So just know that too. I've got some people I've talked to that are really squeamish about that. So I didn't ask them why, just saying, but they're squeamish about it. So if you're squeamish about your guys taking a background check, then maybe LSAs, you don't want them. But at the same time, I want to make sure you guys know we are actively looking at those and seeing if we can at some point soon, hopefully, qualify for those and go after them. So
and we're actively telling Google that, hey, don't ignore the chimney service industry. Yeah. I got on a webinar, I don't know, several weeks ago, and the only reason I got on that webinar was because it was a webinar with 2 of the employees at Google that head up the LSA department, and it was a chance to talk to a couple of the bigwigs. And so I got on there, and man, even before the webinar started, I was chatting them and saying, hey, just want to let you know, we're a marketing agency, work with a lot of chimney service companies. Chimney services is a real thing. Thousands of companies across the US. Don't ignore them when it comes to LSAs. There's a really great opportunity there for them and for you. So I mean, we're promoting it, trying to get them to.
Yeah. Every time I get, I'm done the same thing. I was on one about 6 months ago going, hey guys, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Yeah. So yeah, we try it. Oh Lord, let's see what comments we got here. I'm going to put that up. There's LSA eligibility. It's probably Tom or Jonathan that put that in there. So if you guys want to look at that, that's where I visit often to see if we are eligible for that. So that's a good thing. Thanks guys for throwing that in there. I really appreciate that. So here's one that we've gotten just recently. I actually was doing a site review that last week, and this was the question the guy asked me was, what's the number 1 mistake you see made on websites? So you ready for mine? I know it might. Actually, I'm going to say 2. They're kind of in
kind of the same thing. If I know what you're going to say, because I bet
Related
it's my answer too.
Yeah. So the number one mistake I see on the website. Here's a drum roll. I'm not a very good drummer. Yeah. Oh well, whatever. Um, it's hiding your phone number, and you hide it at the very top on the bar, or you can't find a phone number till you get all the way down to the bottom. Man, that phone number needs to either be right in the center or center right, just as big as you can possibly get it in the header. And I know when our developer first came on board, and I said this has got to be changed on every single website, he kind of poo-pooed it a little bit, and I'm like, no, 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 no. And he goes, do you know what it's going to take? And my answer was, I don't care what it takes. It doesn't matter what it takes. Get it there. And guess what? He did. So that's the point. When people say, oh, I can't do that, you got to challenge them and say, it needs to be done, because that's really important for conversion. If I have to look all over for a phone number, I'm on to the next one. I'm gone.
Yeah.
And then my next deal is right under it. Tell me how to schedule an appointment with you. If I can't call you, then give me a way that I can schedule it with you, whether it's on chat, whether it's text, whether it's a form where I can fill out and get it to you, or actually go to your calendar and get it scheduled. I don't care how I do it. I just want to get it scheduled. That to me is the number one mistake that people make on websites.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. Your call to action is telling your customer exactly what step you want them to take next.
Yeah.
And a phone number is usually, for a home service business, that is the number one thing that you want them to do next, is give you a call. You're much more likely to gain a new customer and get them scheduled when they make the phone call, historically speaking, unless you've just got really horrible people answering your phones, in which case, what are you doing? Come on. Get somebody who has a smile in their voice and answer good questions. But anyway, that's it, is call to action. And you want to put it front and center. You want it to be the most visible thing on the page, and the place where people look when they're looking for it. And that is right at the top, right in the middle of the page, or up at the top right, and very visible. And that's that's the call to action. And some people will click the darn button, and or if they're on their mobile phone, or pick up the phone and call, simply because it was so visible and that was the easiest path of action for them. So don't discount that. Don't hide it. We put way too many roadblocks between our customer and our bank account.
And that's great.
We keep getting in our own way, and we don't have to, especially when it comes to that.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's ego. I want my big logo, and I want this, I want that. I want people to know who I am and what I do and whatever. But if I'm a customer out there and I got a problem and I need you now, I'm just looking for your phone number. That's all I care about. Is give me a phone number I can call somebody at your office and say, I have this problem. Can you fix it? Yes, great. Let's book it. I mean, that's it. It's doesn't take a real smart person, because I'm not that smart to figure that out. So here's a great question from Chuck. During these financially challenging times, explain why cutting back on marketing and advertising is shooting yourself in the foot.
When you're going uphill, you don't let off on the gas, you press harder, right? I mean, that's it. In a nutshell, that's the analogy. And what we see is that companies that market through challenging times, they may not grow a lot, but they're going to outlast their competitors during that same challenging time and come out the other end in a much, much more advantageous place. And, pouring on the gas, that's it. You've got to keep the wheels of commerce moving for your business. It may be that you spend more marketing in terms of a percentage of your income or your revenue during that time, because it's going to take more to get people to spend. But it's keeping that business going, and it's the lifeline, it's the oxygen for your success. And stopping marketing is the most tempting thing to do. Um, you look at all of your expenses and the priorities that go with them, and you analyze everything as an expense, and you start thinking, what can I cut right now because I'm not making the money I used to make. Don't look at marketing purely as an expense. Yes, it's an expense, but it's an investment. It's you know you cannot survive without it. It is oxygen. So I don't know. That's my take on it. What's yours?
So I have two things. So the first thing I'm going to say is the businesses that keep your marketing going are probably going to be less than the ones that cut back. So what are they going to do if everybody around them is cutting back and you're keeping your marketing and getting out there in front of their customer? Guess what's going to happen? You're going to grow. I've seen time and time again, I've seen companies do that. Little guys that get scared and they shudder in their in their boots, and so they stop everything. And the larger companies kind of gobble up their more of the market share. So if you're not, if you don't want to have your market share gobbled up, you've got to stay in the game. That's just the way it goes. And then there's a company that uses this analogy, Business Made Simple, that your whole business is like a big plane. And I'm not going to go through everything here, but uh, a plane can run with one wing. They can fly with one wing, but it can't get off the ground with one wing. And one wing is marketing and the other wing is sales. So if you can't just go through sales if you don't have your marketing in, because it's your marketing in that brings in people for your sales. So if you think that you're going to fly without either, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You're gonna fall and crash. And depending on how big your plane is, really is going to determine how big the crash is. So that's what I would say.
That's probably a good topic to have an entire Spark Live discussion on. Is moves to make facing a downturn, or facing the potential of a downturn.
Yeah, and we can do that. I'm not 100% sure it's a downturn. Now I'm fixed to. If you guys have comments on this, please put them out there because I'm ready for this one. Here's the problem I'm having. Everybody says this is going to be a downturn. I'm not 100% sure it is, and I'm going to tell you why. I studied financial markets, and right now the financial markets are cuckoo. I'm just telling you. Inflation, yes, is up, but not everything in the financial markets is down. Number one. Number two, the unemployment rate. The Fed will tell you that to have a recession, unemployment has to be above 7%. Well, you can't have a recession if unemployment is at 3.6%. So there's a great book called The Deficit Myth that talks about all these arbitrary numbers that the Fed has in place and that economics people have put in place that make zero sense. Why in the world is a good economy? They tell you that if you get below 3% unemployment, you are in an unattainable economy. Well, why in the world don't we want 0% unemployment? Don't we think we want everybody to have a job? That would be a good thing, right? But not according to the Fed. So not everything that they've laid out is necessarily true. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying they're having so many mixed messages right now, they can't even figure it out. Depends on what economic person you listen to. It's kind of it's up in the air.
Well, and we see differences depending just geographically in the country. Certain markets are having more of a challenge right now than others. It's not a blanket statement that we can make by any stretch. And in some markets, the indicators are stronger there than they are in other markets. Like here in Nashville, even with mortgage rates going way up, the housing market is still ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, going crazy, and home values still going up. And that typically you start seeing that slow down, or home values losing value when rates go up. And that hasn't happened here, but in other places it is. And so, the bottom line is you prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And I think it's a good time to have those discussions and how to prepare. I just wrote an article for Sweeping Magazine that talks about that, and talks about what those kinds of decisions look like that you might need to start thinking about. The only reason I'm talking about it is not to run on fear, or base a business decision on fear. It's quite the opposite. It's to prepare yourself so that you'll make a good decision before that fear paralyzes you and you have no more time, or you run out of time to make a really good informed decision. So, that's a lot to talk about there.
So this is really good, Terry. I'm so glad you put this in, because recession isn't based on numbers, but on perception by the customers who feel hit by inflation and are pulling back spending right now. That is a great analysis. That's what's called sentiment. And when you talk about in the financial world, they talk about the sentiment of the country. That when and sentiment right now is pushed a lot by media. There was somebody on MSNBC, I think her name is Katie Tur, the other day, that on her program, she actually talked about she's starting to question whether the media drives more people into fearing on both sides of the aisle, and has caused a lot of the issues in our country. It's really good just kind of looking at it and saying that I might be part of the problem. I thought that was an interesting thing, and I'm not getting political here. It's just when anybody has that self-awareness to look inside and say, am I part of the problem or am I part of the solution? I just have a lot of empathy for them when that happens. And then Chuck says, fear drives emotional decisions. You also need to account for the Fed inverted curve. Oil drives our economy, so fuel costs make costs rise. There are things that you can do to pivot and thrive. Totally believe that, Chuck. I'm a believer, mainly because I've got friends. This is another thing, living in Texas. I have a lot of friends that are in the oil industry. They all said there are a lot of things right now in the oil industry. They're making more money they've made in years right now, hand over foot. They are just bringing it in. So I'm not so sure if they're not using inflation as a cover just to make more money. And I don't think they're the only ones doing it either. Some really interesting theories out there on what's going on. Media drives panic. Absolutely agree, Jerry. And I think the media is starting to pick up on that, and better than that, people are starting to pick up on that.
Yeah,
that it drives.
Well, listen, Taylor and I, we started Spark Marketer in the worst of the downturn of the fallout of 2008 and the housing crisis and the market crash there. It was a great time to start a business.
Yeah.
So I'm not a believer that just because the world has decided that they're going to have a recession that I've got to sign up, volunteer, and stand in line. I certainly don't have to allow a difficult time, financial difficult time that others are experiencing to dictate whether or not I have to experience it as well. As business owners, we have more flexibility than any other kind of person in a down market, because we can pivot. We can decide that the services that we're offering right now, the products that we have on offer right now, are not the ones that customers want. What do they want right now? And let's figure out how to offer that. I've known lots of businesses that started out going into a down market being one kind of company, coming out of a down market being a different kind of company. I mean, like literally pivoting to the point of like, we're no longer doing these services. We're now in this industry. We now do these things. And they did it because, they decided, why not? Why should we just stick to our guns, and think that because we've sunk all this time and money into building this kind of company that we've got to stay that kind of company. The opportunity is not there for that, but there is an opportunity to do this instead. Businesses that are doing this are thriving. I want to thrive. Therefore, we're going to pivot and become this kind of company. So, you know, I'm a big believer in entrepreneurial spark and seeing and deciding, you know, this is what we have to do to survive, and we can do it, and we can become what we need to become in any kind of economy to do well and to thrive and to create jobs and you know, not just good paying jobs, but a good place to work for people who need it in any kind of economy.
And I also think that if everything's always good, guys, we're never going to innovate and do what we need to do to be creative and thrive. Because I've seen too many people get complacent when it's good. And I love the fact when it gets a little edgy, we stop being complacent and we stop just it creates innovation. You know, that's the greatest thing to me. It creates innovation, it creates thought, it creates creativity, it creates an atmosphere that you got to get up off your honey rear and start doing some things. So I kind of like it when it's like this. It you probably can tell it kind of fires me up a little bit.
Well, you get scrappy, you know.
Yeah,
you start to realize. I mean, it is a little scary sometimes to think we may be looking at an existential crisis for our company, but at the same time, most business owners that I know say it's all right. I've survived it before. I can do it again. You know, I've crashed and burned before. I can rebuild. I can start something new, or I can figure out how to make the changes needed in order to capitalize on the current market environment.
And couldn't agree more. Well, guys, thank you so much. Don't have any other questions coming in. So just let you know, Spark Live can be found as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite player. And just want you to hold on to your socks here because we've got a special guest. Chuck Hall is going to join us next week, and we are going to talk about the value of testing new marketing strategies. Just a quick note, the reason that I have invited Chuck is one of the companies that has always been willing to test stuff for us. And so he just comes at it at a really positive and optimistic way, and has worked out really well for him. So I wanted him to talk about some of those things. So we'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much. Chuck, I always agree. Cream rises to the top. Reinvent. Absolutely. That's from Mr. Eisenhower. Reinvent yourself.
He wrote the book on it.
That's the deal. He did. Thank you very much, Mr. Eisenhower. So glad you did that book. So thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Hope y'all have a great week. Until then.
Thanks, everyone.